Good afternoon. Welcome back to another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space. You are tuned into Prepping and Packing for Landscape Photographers, hosted by Sony. And as my wonderful colleague Courtney pointed out, leave it to the event space to have autumn on the first day of spring. But there we go. We got a little joke in here. Autumn Schrock joining us. Autumn, what's going on?
Not much. I'm excited.
We're excited to have you back. It's been a while. We've had this on the calendar for quite a while. So it's fine. The day is finally here. Seems like it's been forever. So we're going to turn it over to you to get it started. Huge thank you, obviously, to Sony for sponsoring today's event and for Autumn for joining us once again. And any questions that anybody has out there, feel free to get them in and we'll get them filtered over to Autumn. But Autumn, show's yours.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone. And yes, happy first day of spring. I was actually born in the winter, so it's all confusing, but so excited to be here today to chat all things packing and prepping with you. Packing and just the thought of packing, especially for a photography related trip, I think can be incredibly overwhelming. Just all of the stuff on this desk right here is already giving me a little bit of stress. But when I was first starting out with travel and landscape photography, the mere thought of showing up for a shoot and forgetting something gave me so much anxiety. Because not only does it take a lot of effort to get to a lot of these locations to shoot, but it also undermines your self-confidence. You get really frustrated with yourself and a little bit upset, like how could I leave that item behind? And that just puts a damper on the whole shoot. And I don't know about you, but I definitely do not work best in those conditions. If there's one thing that I've learned on my photography journey so far, though, it's that stress suppresses creativity. There is no way about it. And that is a photographer's job, is to be creative. And one of the good things about landscape photography is that, at least for me, being in the outdoors is incredibly soothing. No matter how stressed I am, being out in nature does help a little bit. But over the years, I've developed a few methods that help me to go into these photo trips feeling more prepared and therefore more confident, so that all that I have to do is worry about taking photos, experiencing nature, and being creative. So I'm really excited to share my process with you today. So let's just go ahead, get started. We'll jump right in. So when I'm preparing for a trip, I ask myself 3 questions. How long is the trip? What will I be photographing? And what is the elevation, climate, and time of year that I'm going to be going? All 3 of these questions affect not only how I pack, but also what I pack. So question number 1, how long is the trip? I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. Determines how many things I need to bring, basically. For instance, if I'm going on a shorter trip, maybe I want to pack a little bit lighter, I can share chargers between devices. But if it's a longer trip, maybe it's a colder trip, I'm going to need to bring a lot more layers, more clothing layers. I'm going to need to think about, do I need a checked bag? Do I need just a carry-on? So kind of these questions are what I'm thinking about for that first question I ask myself. Question number 2, what will I be photographing? And this is where I determine all of the camera gear that I need to bring with me. This is an area where I don't pack light. I've been in too many scenarios where I wished I had a lens that I didn't have, and I missed a potentially killer shot, and it haunts me in my dreams. So now I bring most of my camera gear with me on these trips. So for example, I'm going to be going to Mount Rainier National Park later this summer to teach an astro and landscape photography workshop. So let's use that trip as our packing example for today. So for camera bodies, I'm going to be bringing my Sony Alpha 1. I think I'm going to bring 2 of them, just so that I can time lapse one section of the landscape and then have another camera so that I can shoot a different part of the landscape. And the Sony Alpha 1, I'm bringing that because it's pretty much perfect for this shooting scenario. To be honest, it's pretty much perfect for every shooting scenario, but it's excellent in low light. I'm going to be shooting astro. The high resolution is amazing for being able to crop in a little bit. It's got 50 megapixels, amazing dynamic range, and it's got the speed and the awesome autofocus system for wildlife. For lenses, I think I'm going to be bringing my Sony 14mm f1.8 G Master. I like to start with wider lenses and then kind of work my way through the standard focal length and then into the telephoto length. So for my wide, I'm going to be bringing, like I said, my Sony 14, and then I'm also going to bring the Sony 20mm f1.8 G lens. These are my two go-to astro lenses. They're incredibly small and lightweight, which is perfect for traveling for your photography trips. And they're incredibly sharp, edge to edge. They're just really great. So I highly recommend picking up these two lenses if you don't already have them in your bag. Then for my standard focal length range, I'll be bringing my Sony 24-70 f2.8 G Master Mark II lens. And really quickly, I really love this updated version to Sony's 24-70mm lens. It's a little bit more compact and a little bit lighter weight, which, I have to carry all of this gear on my small 105-pound frame. So anywhere I can shave weight is very much welcome. So I really love this update to the 24-70. And then I know that I'm going to be shooting during the day with my 24-70, like for sunrises and sunsets, partly because I've been to this location before, so I know what to expect. But even if I hadn't been to this location, I know that 24-70 is a focal length range that suits my personal photography style. So that's something else to keep in mind. Do you find yourself shooting a little bit wider or a little bit tighter? Then I know I'm also going to want to bring a telephoto lens, my Sony 100-400 f4.5 to 5.6 G Master lens. This is my baby. I really love this lens and I always have it with me. But I've done my research. I know there's going to be some opportunities for moon photography while I'm there, as well as some wildlife. At Mount Rainier National Park, you often see mountain goats and marmots, pikas, so adorable little critters that I'm excited to photograph. But even if I hadn't been to this location before, there are tons of different ways online to figure out what kind of lenses that you might need for your trip. For example, I use Google Earth a lot to kind of scour the landscape, get a sense of scale for things. If I know that I'm going to be going on a hiking trail, I'll find that hiking trail and then use some of the instruments in Google Earth to figure out, how far away is the hiking trail from said mountains or scenes that I want to shoot. And then I can plug that into PhotoPills, which is an amazing iPhone or Android app that allows you to not only align like the moon and the Milky Way over objects, but it also will give you the field of view based on your inputted focal length. So that's another really great tool to just gauge, what's the scale of this place? What lenses am I going to need? And I even just look at like Instagram or Google Maps if there's a geotag location, or All Trails, or even just Google Images, just to see, what other photos look like. And then, it helps if you have some photographer friends that you can ask who have maybe been there, or maybe they know somebody who's been there that can provide you with a little bit more data. And Mount Rainier is a national park, so I won't be needing to bring a drone because drones are not allowed in national parks. And so knowing not only the type of photography that you'll be shooting, like landscape, astro, portraits, wildlife, what have you, but also knowing the location, the features, and the rules for the area that you're going to be going. All of these will help you determine the type of gear that you'll want to bring with you. Question 3, what is the time of year and elevation climate where I'm going? This question is probably the most important of the 3, and it's not camera related, but it's the one that can potentially save your life. So knowing the elevation, the climate, the time of year that I'm going to be going all tell me what clothing layers I need to pack with me in my bag. And even if it's the middle of summer, I know that I need to be prepared for potential winter conditions if I'm going to be going up into the mountains, which for this trip I am. Not only will that make your trip more comfortable, but it can save your life. You know, being unprepared in the wilderness is a recipe for disaster, and being prepared is the first leave no trace principle, I think, for a reason. And if you're not familiar with the 7 leave no trace principles, I highly recommend looking them up before your next trip out into the outdoors. But for our example, I'm going to be heading to Mount Rainier National Park in the peak of summer. So, you know, you might not think I'm going to need extra layers, but I'm going to be shooting astro, which means I'm going to be shooting pretty late at night. I'm also going to be shooting sunrises, which, you know, as you know, is the coldest time of day. And I know that I'm going to be doing a hiking trail that goes up to about 7,200 feet, or I think that's like 2,200 meters, which isn't super high, but it's high enough and close enough to a massive mountain, Mount Rainier, that creates its own unpredictable and wild weather. So I just need to make sure that I'm prepared and that I have as many layers as I need to keep myself warm. And it's also important to know all of the trail information if you're going to be hiking, like what's the starting elevation, what's the elevation gain, what's the elevation loss, are there any obstacles that I need to be aware of, like river crossings, you know, what's the mileage, what's the wildlife like, do I need to carry bear spray or are there ticks? And so all of this information can easily be found online as well. I use AllTrails app or alltrails.com, or state-based trail sites like Washington Trails Association for specifically Washington State for Mount Rainier. But for weather, specifically mountain area weather, I use a website called mountain-forecast.com. And this is an amazing website. Maybe we can like put that in the chat. It's mountain-forecast.com. And it gives you pretty detailed weather information based on different elevations for specific mountains that you'll be at. Whereas, you know, your everyday weather apps like AccuWeather or Wonderground, they don't have location and weather data for a lot of these more remote areas. So highly recommend Mountain Weather Forecast or mountainforecast.com. So even though it'll be the middle of summer, like I said, I know that I'm going to need to bring at least a fleece layer, a puffy coat, a shell jacket, gloves, and a beanie. I'll probably even bring my packable down pants because I know myself and I run annoyingly cold and they pack up really small and weigh basically nothing. You know, my partner, Nate Luby, he's kind of the opposite of me. I think most men probably are in that they run a little more hot than cold. And so he probably won't be bringing as many layers as me, but it's just important, you know yourself best. So take a look at the low temps for, you know, nights that you'll be doing astro or mornings for sunrises, and then go from there. And another thing to keep in mind that I think a lot of people forget is not just looking at the temperatures, but also the climate as a whole. Like, for instance, the Pacific Northwest is more humid. So those cooler temperatures could potentially feel colder than they actually are, thanks to the humidity. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, you know, if you're in the Southwest, you know, maybe you're in an arid climate where there's very low humidity. You can be out in the middle of the day and it's sunny and maybe it's only like 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. And it feels really warm, but then the second you go into the shade or the sun goes down, those temps drop really quickly and then it suddenly gets very, very cold. So it's really important to take a more comprehensive look at the entire climate as well, and that will help you determine which layers that you need to bring. Okay, so after I've made these kind of initial preparations sort of in my head and online doing some research, then I start to go through my packing lists. And full disclosure, I am neurodivergent, so forgetting things is basically the skill I'm best at. Remembering things is not my forte, so I pretty much live my life by creating packing lists. And I have a few different lists that I use. I have a day trip packing list, which you can actually find on my blog, a downloadable PDF if you're interested in checking that out. Just go to autumnschrock.com/blog, and it's the day hiking checklist for photographers. But since this is going to be a multi-trip packing or multi-day trip that I'm going to be going on, I'll be using my multi-day trip packing list. And one thing I think I do differently in my packing lists than a lot of the ones I've seen online is that I like to create a comprehensive packing list for every single shoot. Like it's the same list for every shoot, because I've found that, and maybe it's just me, but I found that when I create separate packing lists for each trip, it's way easier for me to leave something off accidentally. So I use a list that just has everything on it that I could possibly ever need for any shoot, because it's easier for me to cross off things that I don't need rather than forget things that, it's easier for me to cross things off that I don't need than it is for me to remember things that I do need. So I found that that just works for me best, being able to have everything on there and say, hey, I don't need this, I can cross this off instead of, trying to remember it. Usually my packing lists have 8 different sections to them, and those are the 10 essentials, camera gear, tech and travel gear, clothing and footwear, food and water, outdoor gear, important personal items, which includes toiletries, and things to do before I leave. So I'm going to just go through all of these items and kind of talk through about what I pack on my trips. So for the 10 essentials, navigation is the first one. And I use a Garmin InReach Mini. This is an amazing little tool that if I were to get into trouble, I can communicate via satellite if there's no service, or if I'm in significant trouble, there's also an SOS button that I can hit where search and rescue will come and find me. So highly recommend using this if you spend any time out in nature where there's not a lot of service. I also, if it's a place that I've never been before, I'll bring a paper map and a compass. I am very familiar with Mount Rainier National Park, though. It's my favorite national park, so I'm very familiar with all the trails, and I feel confident enough to just have the Garmin with me. Next is headlamp. Headlamp is super important. I just use this rechargeable one from Black Diamond, nothing fancy, but I like that it's rechargeable and that I don't have to worry about the batteries dying on me, because I probably will have a power pack of some sort with me that I can charge it. But headlamp is super important anytime you're even just out hiking, not even on a photo shoot if you're shooting astro, because trying to find your way back in the dark is really dangerous and disorienting, and it can really get you lost fast. So I just always keep a headlamp in my bag no matter what. Sun protection, this can be sunglasses or a hat, sunscreen. I'm going to be pretty covered up, so I'm not really worried about that too much. I will bring some sunglasses though. These are really cool sunglasses. They have no arms on them, it's just a string. So throwing them in my pack, I don't have to worry about the arms potentially breaking off, and really helpful. So these are Ombraz sunglasses. First aid kit. Since I'm going to be teaching a workshop, I'm bringing a slightly bigger, more comprehensive first aid kit than I normally would if it was just me or me and my partner going out. So I love these little like pre-made kits that you can get at REI or wherever, but I will say a lot of the items in there are pretty standard and maybe not the highest quality. So I do recommend giving a look through the first aid kit after you get it and tailoring it to your needs. Like for instance, I'm highly allergic to mosquitoes. Like I don't just get a red bump that itches, my entire arm swells up and it's horrifying and it's horrible. So I have some special antihistamines and some cream in here, just some other things, daily medications, things like that, so that you can be prepared if you have to spend more time in nature than you were expecting. Then we've got knife or multi-tool. If it's a backpacking trip, I'll bring my Leatherman multi-tool, but since this is just a quick trip, this is a super lightweight knife. If you're flying, of course, you can't bring this on the plane with you, but if you are checking a bag, I'll just throw it in there, which I will be doing. Fire, Matches are super easy to pack, or just a tiny little Bic lighter. I use both, but that's just what I have for this trip here. Shelter. In my first aid kit, I have like 10 or 15 emergency blankets packed that can easily be used to create a shelter if I need to spend the night not planned, unplanned spending the night in nature. And then the last 3 items are just more food, water, and clothing than you think you need. And we'll get to that a little bit later. So next is camera equipment then, camera gear. So a backpack. I prefer a backpack that is going to be comfortable for me while I'm outside, rather than, just like a city pack that doesn't have a hip belt. So I'll talk more about the backpack a little bit later. Tripod. I use the Colorado Tripod Company's Centennial 2 Series tripod. It's not the most compact travel tripod, but it is the sturdiest that I've found. And, I'm going to be shooting astro. I'm going to be using, 15-second exposures. I want my tripod to be sturdy enough that I don't have to worry about it wiggling about, if I'm on a ridge and it's kind of windy. So I prefer to carry a slightly heavier tripod that I know will give me good quality images rather than some of those like really tiny compact tripods. But each their own. Quick release plate. So, I'm sure I'm not the only person that's done this where I've like, okay, got my tripod packed, I'm ready to go. I get to the location and then I don't have the quick release plate to attach my camera to the tripod. I hope I'm not the only person that's done that, but it is very frustrating. So now I have developed a system where I never take the plate off of my camera, and it's amazing. So you probably saw I have these straps on my camera, and I have the Peak Design base plate. It's kind of hard to see probably because it's black. The Peak Design base plate on my camera at all times. And then my strap connects to that base plate so that when I wear my strap and my camera, it hangs down by my side instead of pointed out where potentially, my lens could bump into stuff. So not only that, but then the base plate can go into my capture clip that we'll talk about in a second on my backpack. And it's Arca compatible, so it fits in my tripod. Amazing, tiny little base plate. I love it. Highly recommend. Cameras and lenses. I already talked a bit about what I'm going to be bringing, but on my checklist, I have camera body, or bodies plural, wide angle lens, standard lens, and then telephoto lens. So that makes sure that I don't forget any of my lenses. Camera accessories. This is where I have several items that I don't pack for every trip. Like the first one on my my list is shotgun microphone. I'm not going to be doing video on this trip, so I'm not going to be bringing that. I can cross it off. The next one I have is lav microphone. I'm not going to be needing that as well, so I can cross that off. Remote shutter. I'm not going to be doing any like star trails or anything that's going to need a bulb exposure on this trip, so also not going to bring that. I'll just use my built-in self-timer for my astro shots. Extra batteries. I think since I'm bringing 2 bodies, I'll probably bring 4 batteries so that I'll have a spare for each camera. The Sony batteries, the newer batteries, they have a lot of life to them, so I don't really worry too much about needing to bring excess batteries. But I will say, if you are going somewhere really cold like the Arctic or the Antarctic, it is important to keep in mind that your batteries will drain a little bit faster. Extra memory cards. I just carry this little case that has a ton of cards. I think it holds like 18 or 20 cards or something. But make sure that I always have spare cards just in case. Never want to come across something amazing and then your card is full and you can't shoot it. Filters. I use Breakthrough Photography filters. They're really high quality filters. I think, why spend so much money on your lenses and your cameras if you're just going to put a really low quality piece of glass in front? So I really highly recommend the Breakthrough Photography filters. I have a circular polarizer that I'll bring. I have a 6-stop polarized neutral density filter, which I really love. It's like a polarizer and an ND filter in one, but I know that there are some waterfalls at Mount Rainier, so I'll want to bring a neutral density filter so that I can slow my shutter speed to get some of that smooth water. And then I also have clear filters on all of my lenses. So I guess it's worth mentioning that For my like polarizing lenses and my ND filters, I buy the widest diameter for my lenses. So all of my lenses are 82 millimeters in diameter or smaller. So I buy the 82 millimeter filters, and then I just use step-up rings, which cost like $8 or something. They're really, really inexpensive, but they allow you to use your filters on all of your smaller lenses as well. So then it's just nice. I only have to buy one set of filters, except for the clear filters that I put on all the lenses just for protection. Rubber bands. This is a fun little tidbit, I think, a fun little hack. When you use circular polarizers or circular filters in general in the field, if you're stacking filters or if you are using a step-up ring and there's a temperature change, often they can get stuck together. So bringing some rubber bands that you can wrap around each section of the filters that are stuck together gives you a little bit more leverage and a little bit more grip so that you can more easily separate them. So these have definitely come in handy. I always just keep like a handful of rubber bands in my bag for that purpose. Microfiber cloth, pretty self-explanatory for cleaning my lenses, but I love these little, I don't know, I think they're like spuds is what they're called maybe, but these little just microfiber things that you can clip to your backpack and they just tuck away when you're done. So don't have to worry about them getting dirty or anything. And yeah, I just clip it to my backpack so it's easily accessible. Lens and body caps. I don't bring these on every trip, but I probably will for this trip, just in case somebody wants to try one of my lenses and I don't have a lens to put back on my camera. So I just carry like a set for each camera, just in case I need to separate them when they're in my bag. Camera straps, like I mentioned before a little bit already, I use the Peak Design straps in the system. They're pretty nice. I have the smaller, I think this is the Slide Light, and then my red strap that I showed earlier is the Slide, and it's got a little bit of padding on it. I really like both of them. I don't know if I really think one's better than the other, but I just really love the system. It's really nice. Capture clip. So this is what I was talking about, where my camera base plates can go clip into my camera backpack strap for easy access. And so I have it on my backpack already, but it's just this little silver guy here. So that base plate just slides right in here, and then my camera is super easily accessible and I can hike with it on there if I'd like. Allen key, this is, for tightening my base plate if it gets loose, which they sometimes do. I just keep mine with like a carabiner, not carabiner, I guess it's just a little ring to my memory cards, because I know I'm always going to bring memory cards with me. So I'll never forget my Allen key, because I've definitely done that. And then I also have a little, I don't even know what you call this, but it's kind of just like a multi-tool for base plates. I don't know if you can see that really well. It's just kind of like a replacement for carrying like a nickel or something, for if your base plate has the slot through it instead of the hole for the Allen key. So this has come in handy a lot over the years, just random people needing like a key or something to tighten their base plate. Camera rain cover. I'm going to be in the mountains. They create their own weather. Flash storms come through pretty frequently. So I'm going to bring one of these like plastic sleeves that's really inexpensive. I have a nicer sleeve or a nicer like rain cover, but I'm already going to be bringing quite a bit of stuff and this weighs basically nothing. So I'm just going to bring this one. And then camera backpack rain cover as well. I know I don't think that I'll have too much trouble with this bag in particular. I'll talk about that in a second, but I always just carry a camera cover with me just in case it's like downpouring and I don't want anything to happen to my gear. Okay, next section is tech and travel gear. I don't have any of this down here really, just this is more for things that will stay at the hotel or wherever I'm staying, or for use on the airplane. So I have laptop charger, laptop case, because I'll most likely travel with my laptop in my camera bag, but I don't want that to go with me on the trail. So I'll bring just like an extra little sleeve for my laptop when it's in the hotel. Hard drives, all of my chargers, like camera charger, drone charger, power bank, which I don't think I'll bring on this trip actually, like a little power battery, just because I know what to expect for how long I'm going to be out shooting and how long my batteries last. I think I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be able to charge them when I get back to the hotel. And then headphones, you know, for the plane, Kindle and Nintendo Switch and charger for the plane, phone charger, watch charger. And then I like to use AirTags. I'm not sure if you are familiar with what an AirTag is, but they're made by Apple. It's basically like a little Bluetooth tracker. So I throw one in my backpack, and I also throw one in any other bag I have, like my checked bag or my carry-on bag, just so that if for some reason it were to get lost or stolen, I have an idea of where to look for it. Next section is clothing and footwear. I wear all moisture wicking clothing, mostly merino wool when I'm out hiking, just so that it can, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It can wick the sweat so that I don't get cold from that kind of cold sweat just sitting on my body. So I highly recommend merino wool clothing or just anything that's moisture wicking in general. So I'll wear moisture wicking undergarments, moisture wicking tee or a long sleeve shirt. I'll probably wear a long sleeve shirt on this trip, but maybe we'll see what the weather is actually like before I make that decision. Then quick drying shorts or pants. I know I'm going to want pants for this trip. Lightweight fleece, hiking socks. I really, really love the Fits hiking socks. They're wool and they keep their shape like surprisingly well. So when you take your sock off, it's like in the perfect shape of your foot, which is kind of funny, but it means that they actually fit and are very conforming to your foot, which I really love, which means less blisters in your hiking boots. And I am very much a hater of hiking blisters. So definitely love those socks. Hiking boots, I use the Danner Mountain 600 hiking boots, really love them. They feel kind of just like tennis shoes, but with a high ankle. So really love those. And then casual shoes for the plane or anytime when I'm not hiking. And masks, of course, for plane or travel. And then I have a separate section under this for rainy or cool weather, where I add things like rain jacket and rain pants. I will be bringing a rain shell with me, but I don't think I'll be bringing the rain pants. Again, I'll wait to see until I get closer what the weather is like. Long underwear layers, insulated jacket. I will be bringing a puffy coat, a down coat, gloves, and a beanie. Definitely, I mean, I've got all of that over here, but you don't really, you know what gloves and a beanie look like. So, and then food and water. This is an important part that I think that you should not skimp out on. A lot of people tend to do that, but you never know what's going to happen when you step out into the wilderness. Nobody expects to go out in the wilderness and end up having to stay for 10 days. But I think it is important to be prepared, like I mentioned before, for things to go wrong, because that is how you wind up in trouble really, really quickly if you're unprepared for that. So reusable water bottle, I just have this here, either a Nalgene or a hydration bladder. The Shimoda Design backpacks, which are the bags I use, do have hydration sleeves in them for bladders. And if I were to be doing longer trips or more like backpacking trips where I wasn't going to be stopping periodically to take photos, I think I would bring my hydration bladder. I have a 3-liter one, and I think I have a 2-liter one as well. But for this trip, I know specifically on these hiking trails, the views are stunning the entire way. So I'm going to want to be stopping to take some photos and switching lenses. So I know that I'll just be able to get my water bottle out, and it's just a little bit easier to access. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, depending on where you're going to be going out. For breakfast, I'll usually just like pack some granola bars. And then I'm not usually out shooting during lunchtime, during that like dad blue o'clock, but if I am, I'll bring like a sandwich or something. And then the same for dinner, like a sandwich, maybe some nuts, some trail snacks like granola bars or energy bars. I really love the little goo gel packets. Those are really nice for if you just need to get some calories in quickly or some caffeine, maybe you're feeling a little bit tired. Those are really nice as well. And then something that I love, this little like ridiculous kind of packing tip, but For some reason, we don't ever think about packing a trash bag for our food. And I don't know about you, but I don't always eat like my entire sandwich, and there's probably mustard dripping on something, and I don't want to throw that in my bag and get mustard smeared everywhere. So I usually just bring like a gallon Ziploc bag with me to pack my trash in, or if I see any trash on the trail, it's, you know, very easy for me just to pick it up and throw it in my trash bag. Outdoor gear is the next section. Sunglasses, we already went over. Packable down blanket or pants. I'm definitely going to bring my down pants, I think. Trekking poles. I use these all the time, and I don't really know why they get this reputation of being like really dorky, but they definitely do. But they're so helpful for so many reasons, not just for helping to take the weight off of your bag every once in a while, or if its section's really steep, they're super helpful for that too. But I actually love them also for stretching when I'm out hiking. You know, I've got this heavy bag on, my shoulders often get really sore and tired from the weight on my shoulders and on my hips. And so what I like to do is I'll extend my hiking poles out in front of me and put my hands on top and just bend over, and it's the best shoulder stretch you'll ever get when you're out hiking. So I love my hiking poles for multiple different reasons, but they can also be used for a shelter when, or if you ever need that as well. It's something to drape over that can, they can be used as like your center pole for that. Kula cloth or a pee style. If you squat while you pee, you need one of these in the wilderness. I just have this little kit here that has my Kula cloth, which is like reusable toilet paper, basically. Super helpful. The pee style is great too. So if you don't have one of these, I really suggest picking one up. They're super helpful and just make it a little bit easier when you're out in nature. Hand sanitizer, of course, if you're going to the bathroom out in nature, it's nice to have some hand sanitizer, or if, you know, somebody that I'm with potentially has an injury and I need to perform some first aid. Sorry about that. Hand sanitizer is great to have for cleaning your hands. Insect repellent or a head net. There are years when the summer at Mount Rainier can be really mosquito-y, so I'll bring a head net, and then, you know, since I'm flying, I probably won't pack insect repellent, but I might just pick some up while I'm there and kind of douse myself. Z-Seat, this is one of those like creature comforts that I love to bring with me. I'm sure you've seen these before, but it's just this little like foam pad that packs up really small, and it weighs like 2 ounces or something. It's pretty ridiculously light. So I always bring this with me because there are times when, you know, you're sitting down, maybe you're eating and you don't want to sit on like a really hard, sharp rock. I know where I'm going, at least in the park, is filled with a lot of scree. So there's a lot of just like really sharp rocks all together, and it's not very comfortable to sit on. So this helps. And then, you know, if you shot sunset and you've got a couple hours to kill before you're shooting stars, this is also really nice for that too. Hand and or toe warmers. Like I said, I run pretty cold, so I've got a few of these that I'll pack in my bag. And then carabiners. Not a specific use for these, but I always find something that I need to clip to my bag for one reason or another. So I always just have some lightweight climbing carabiners that I can bring with me, especially because they can be used in the event of, you know, needing some sort of survival instance where, you know, maybe I need to rip the strap off of my hiking pole, or use my camera strap as some sort of thing to keep something carabinered down. And notebook and pencil. This is kind of one of those things that I don't necessarily bring on every trip with me, but since this is a workshop that I'm going to be leading, I will bring paper and pen with me, or pencil, because I am a wilderness first responder, which means basically that if something were to happen to someone in my party, I'm certified to perform a little bit of first aid on them while I'm waiting for responders to come, or, if I need to help them back out, I can. And what this is good for is jotting down any vitals, jotting down anything about necessary about said accident that I can then pass on to the EMTs or whoever. Hopefully nobody needs to ever get one of these, but do carry it with me just in case. And you never know when you might need pen and paper. So next, important personal items, passport, of course, if you're traveling, or your ID, name tag for your backpack. I have these nice little like leather tags that just has my name and my email address on it. So if my bag were to ever get lost, somebody knows how to contact me. Same for your luggage, of course. Credit cards, debit cards. I put this on here because you're like, well, you're going to bring your wallet, right? Well, psych, I've forgotten that before. So I have to put my credit cards and debit cards on there, but also it's a reminder that since this is going to be a business travel, to use my business credit cards instead of my personal cards. And then business cards in general, I keep some in my backpack and some in my wallet, but they're always good to pass out on the trail if people are curious about your photography. Medications, toiletries. I have my toiletries all listed out, but I won't go through those. An airport lounge card, if you have one of those, a vaccine card, if that's required for wherever you're going, and then phone and keys. Yes, I literally put phone and keys on my list because I have forgotten both of those. I'm telling you, I can't remember anything. And then the last section is to do before I leave. And this has become more and more important for me because I would forget to do these things, of course, before leaving. So I have on here, put hold on my mail. So, nothing gets stolen if I get a package or anything coming. Depending on the time of year, turn my AC on or off. Charge everything, charge camera batteries, laptop, everything that we've gone over basically in the list already. Clear off memory cards, make sure I have room on my hard drives for said memory cards to be dumped onto. And then, download music or movies for the plane. And I also download offline Google Maps so that I have a map with me on my phone. No matter where I am, if I don't have service, I can still navigate and find my way. And then I unplug some of my electronics at home so that I can help to save on some energy usage. Pay bills. Maybe I'll have some bills due during the time that I'm gone. Don't want to have to worry about that. Wash dishes, take trash out, water my plants, and then pet stuff. I just adopted 2 kitties. They're adorable. I guess maybe they're almost a year old now, so I didn't just adopt them. But anyway, I have all the pet stuff on there, like get a sitter, make sure there's enough food and water, etc. So now I've gone through my whole packing list. It's a lot of stuff, but now I know what I need to bring. So now I need to ask myself, which bag do I want to carry all of this stuff in? And I think I've tried every single camera bag on the market, and the best ones that I've found are the Shimoda design bags. And not just because they have like really durable materials and they're really nice and whatnot, but they are heavily customizable. And as a pretty petite woman, I'm 5'2". Whether I like it or not, camera bag manufacturers are not creating bags based to my specifications, no matter how badly I wish they would. Camera bags are mostly made for 5'10" or taller men, and that is not really what would fit me. So I love that these bags are super customizable. I have a really short torso, so you can actually adjust. I don't know if you can really see it on here, but it says like extra large, large, medium, small. You can adjust the torso height, and then you can also remove and swap out the shoulder straps. So these are women's specific straps that are just a little bit smaller and made more to contour a woman's body. So love that so much. But for warmer or shorter trips, I'll use the Explore 30-liter version 2, the V2. For maybe a slightly longer trip, like a weekend trip, or if I need a few extra layers, I'll use the 30-liter Action X bag because it has an expandable roll top that allows me to add like 7 additional liters, I think. For colder or longer trips like this one, I'll use the Action X 50-liter, which is what this bag is here. So now that I know which bag I'm going to bring, I know all my stuff, I'll go quickly and just pack everything up so you can see how I pack my bag. I usually start in the back with the camera gear. And first thing that I do, just because it's easy, is to throw my air tag in. So my air tag, I usually put in between the core unit and the sleeve that comes with the core unit. Just makes it a little bit more of a hidden spot so that if somebody does steal my bag, it's not easily accessible to them, that they can like toss it out. Then I'll pack my camera compartment. I mean, I actually love packing camera compartments, which maybe makes me sound like the nerdiest person on the planet, but it's kind of like Tetris, and I'm such a sucker for a good puzzle. So I really love configuring my camera compartment, but this one is already set up for what I need. So I will pack my body, one of my bodies with my 24-70 on it. In this first side compartment over here. Then in the middle, my 100-400. Hopefully they can see this. Okay, yeah. Then next, my other camera body with the 14mm on it. Go up here in this top pocket. Then my 20mm next to that. And at the very bottom, I'll put my little dust blower guy in one of these side compartments with my lens body caps. Yes, maybe I should put those in first. Well, they can stay there. Put my batteries in here, my spare batteries, because I already have 2 in my cameras. Then my headlamp, I put in this little tiny compartment right underneath my 24-70 lens. And my memory cards. And then my filters will go in this pocket right here with the step-up rings and the rubber bands. All right, so got all my camera stuff in here. It's kind of hard to see with the straps, I guess, but everything fits really nicely and is easy for me to pull out if I need to on the fly. So I start with the camera gear, then I move to this front pocket here, because once I start to put stuff in the top, this one gets easier or more difficult to put stuff in. So first, I guess I will mention there are these cool little pockets right here, and this is where I will keep maybe additional filters if I have them, or I keep my business cards in this pocket as well. But first, I'll slide my Z seat in this compartment. Then my camera and backpack rain covers so that they're pretty easy to access in case of brief rainstorm. Then on top of that, I'll put my Kula cloth and my P-style so that those are also easily accessible. Then I move to the top section here. And I'll put the things that I don't expect or hope not to use on the bottom first. So things like my knife and my lighter, I hope I don't need to use either of those. So I'm going to put those on the bottom. Then from there, I'll put my first aid kit on the side so that it's kind of hidden out the way, but it's still easily accessible if I need it. I know it's just right here on the side. Then I'll go to my outer layers. So I want my outermost layer to be on the bottom, since that'll be the last one that I put on. So I'll put my rain shell down first. Then my down pants. See, they pack up really small, right? They're pretty small. Then this is my down coat. Comes in a nice bag. I highly recommend Rab equipment for down clothing. Then my fleece that I might end up putting my fleece on pretty early, but I'll put that on the very top. And then I've got my gloves and my beanie. I'll roll my beanie so that it gets to be as small as possible. And I'll put my hand warmers up here so that they're easily accessible as well. My trash bag. And then I'll put all of my food on top of that, so that's probably going to be one of the first things that I take out is my food. So got plenty of room for that up here. So I will close this now. And I did forget one thing out here in this front pocket. I usually put my carabiner to this little strap here. All right, then I move to the sides. So this side pocket here, when I unzip it, has a little bit of a pocket here where I can put my paper and pencil. And I'll put my water bottle on this side. And on the other side, I will clip my tripod, and I like to put my tripod with the two legs touching, if that makes sense, touching the side of the bag, just so that it doesn't wobble around as much. That down, then I will move to the straps. These straps have pockets I can put stuff in, and I'll probably clip my my Garmin on my shoulder strap here. Probably clip my microfiber cloth here as well. And then I'll put my sunglasses, just for sake of ease of getting them out. I'll just shove them in this pocket. And then my hand sanitizer in this other pocket, so that's easily accessible. All right, and then I can strap my poles to the front if I want to. This has, these bags have these like little loops for your trekking poles. So I could strap them if I want, but I probably won't, just because I'm going to be using them. So now, see, we put this on. We'll see. I like to see if there's anything off balance, because I know if I'm going to be hiking for several miles and it feels like I'm being weighed to one side, I know that it's going to affect my shoulders probably fairly early on. So I want to minimize any of that. And there it is. So I'll make sure the shoulder straps, everything feels pretty good. You can see my bag here. It's pretty full, but you have to remember, I'm going to be putting all those layers on as I'm hiking. So it will get a lot smaller, hopefully, down the trail. But yeah, so I think I'm all ready to go now. Hopefully this has been helpful and motivates you to get out on some photo trips. Maybe even one day you'll enjoy packing, dare I say. You know, traveling is inherently stressful. That's just a human thing. But I've found that, you know, trying to make packing a little bit fun, or, you know, just having these methods that help to make it less stressful for me, you know, just helps remind me I love to do what I do, and not to let this sort of stressful pre-packing and planning part of it take any of that away from it. But if you're still feeling a little bit overwhelmed, maybe like traveling with photography, there is a lot to take into consideration. I do teach workshops both in the field and online one-on-one, where you can ask me all the questions and we can chat about anything and everything. But exciting also, my partner Nate Luby and I finally just launched our joint workshop company called In the Wild Workshops. So you can see all of my workshops either on my website, autumnschrock.com/workshops, or on our joint workshop page, inthewildworkshops.com. A huge thank you to Sony and B&H for having me back on the event space. It's great to be here. Thank you for letting me blab about how nerdy I am in packing for my photo trips. But again, my name is Autumn Schrock. You can find me around the web as Pops on all the social media platforms. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any, but otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Autumn, thank you so much. We're going to get into the questions. It's a whole lot of, see, I even got into it.
Hey, look at you, your headlamp. I
Just
love
paying
it.
attention as you're going through. I'm like, what do I have? This is the only thing I had on your list. So apparently I'm not traveling anywhere.
Oh, geez.
We're going to look, it's a long, lonely day over here in my studio. We're going to get into the questions. We have a lot of questions. I know you packed everything up in the bag, so we're going to have to work off a memory here because it's a lot of what brand was this? What kind was this again?
Okay, yep.
So, and for anything that you don't remember, I will tell everybody, as always, all of our content, let me point this down here so I'm not blinding you guys, is available archived online on Facebook and Vimeo. And I'll see if we can get Autumn back for packing a suitcase next time, because that, I think after you did so good on that, everyone's like, wow, that was super impressive job of packing a backpack. So let's get started here. DB is asking any recommendations on a headlight that has a dedicated red light button. I hate having to circle through the white lights to get to red.
That's a good question. I don't think I've really had that struggle with mine, but let me actually see, because I'm curious. I think I don't use my red light very often. I try not to use any light just because I don't want to be that person to accidentally get, red light in somebody's frame. So I try not to use my light as much as possible, because sometimes I'll just like illuminate my phone a little bit to see things, but I use this more for, just hiking back. But let me see if, oh, pro tip, I forgot to mention, lock your headlamp. A lot of headlamps, you can actually lock them. So if you accidentally hit a button, it won't turn on, because I've had them turn on accidentally in my backpack and then my battery gets drained. So pro tip, I don't know about all the other brands, but for Black Diamond headlamps specifically, if you hold both of the buttons on top of your headlamp, hold them for like 3 or 4 seconds, it'll like flash blue, and that means that it's locked. And then you unlock it via the same method, just press and hold these buttons, and then it'll turn on. But let me see actually. Oh yeah, I guess this one I just switch back and forth with just the one button for the red. But yeah, I don't know. I really love this headlamp because it's really lightweight, but it lasts quite a bit of time. So I've really liked this. I don't actually remember, gosh, which one this is. It's the Spot-R. So I don't know. I highly recommend this one because I really like it. But
all right, Autumn, do you ever bring extra batteries? How much? What kind? Anything like that? As far as like batteries for like a headlamp or anything else that's battery operated?
Yeah, that's a good question. For my headlamp is rechargeable, so I don't have batteries to swap out for that, but I will bring like a little Anchor, like a 13,000 milliamp power battery pack with me sometimes. That will just kind of charge all of my devices if I need that. But otherwise, I just carry kind of like what I need. I know I'll need a few extra camera batteries. I'll just charge everything beforehand. So like I'll charge my headlamp before I go, so I know that I won't have to worry about it, dying on me. But otherwise, yeah, I'll just carry like a little power bank.
Okay. And as for the bag, we had a lot of questions asking for what the bag brand and type was again, and also for the final weight, fully packed.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So the bag is Shimoda Designs. Let's see. And the logo just is this little like kind of sun and mountains for reference. But Shimoda Designs, this is the Action X 50-liter bag. And final weight, I haven't actually weighed this, but I would guess it's, I'll have my laptop in it also, and I'll have for the plane ride, but when I'm there, I won't, but then I'll have the water and I'll have all my food. And I would probably say I'm getting close, adding my water bottle, probably to like 15-20 pounds, I would say, which isn't necessarily the lightest bag, but it's also not the heaviest bag. If I'm backpacking with my camera gear, sometimes the last time I weighed it, it was like 52 pounds and I weigh 105 pounds. So Not the easiest, but I try to do a lot of hiking with heavy bags specifically to kind of like train myself basically so that I'm more comfortable on the trail and I'm not doesn't feel like I'm dying.
So that's not too bad. And as far as the ND filter, is there a particular brand or type of ND filter that you recommend?
Yes, I really love breakthrough photography filters. It's breakthrough like THROUGH. But I think that they're the highest quality. Like a lot of filters that I've tried in the past will affect the image quality or they'll add kind of like a color cast. And these filters don't have any of that. They're very, very neutral. So I really love also the ND that I have is a polarized ND. So I can filter out light, but then also have like a polarizer for removing reflections or adding contrast or anything. And I haven't really seen too many other polarized neutral density filters on the market. I mean, maybe there are, but that's like my favorite filter. So I really love breakthrough photography.
Okay. And Patrick, a good follow-up for asking about the bag there. Does it fit as carry-on? Does it fit in the airplane overhead storage bins?
Yes. So I just took this bag actually to Norway with me. And the last flight is like the scariest flight of your life where you're like, am I going to make this? Because it's usually pretty stormy and it's a flight that holds, I don't know, like 30 people, maybe 20 people. But this bag actually fits underneath the seat on that little plane. But it does fit in the overhead compartment all packed up as well. So I'm usually traveling more with my 30-liter just for most of my other trips. But since this is one that's going to be kind of cold, I'm going to have a lot of extra layers. That's why I'm bringing the bigger bag. But the 30 also fits under the seat on like most planes and in the overhead compartment as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because we had some people asking. Robin says when traveling through Europe and Southeast Asia, some airlines have strict 7 kilogram weight restrictions. And so her and Steven were also asking if you're going on and you do have to pare down. Have you ever had any issues with that size bag, or is there like a smaller setup that you'll go to where some of the stuff you can kind of sacrifice?
Yes, and that's a good question. I actually was going to touch on this and I forgot. If you have a Shimoda Designs backpack, the core unit inside of it comes with a zippered sleeve. And I highly recommend leaving that sleeve on your core unit inside your backpack. I'll just kind of quickly show that because the first time I traveled with this bag, I took that off and I didn't have it with me. And the airline forced me to gate check this bag. And I was like, it's full of batteries. I don't know what you want me to do. So she was like, can you take this out? And so I had to take this out, but it does come with, you're probably not going to be able to see this, but it comes with a little sleeve that zips it closed. And I had to take all of my crap out, all the batteries that were in the top portion, my laptop, and I had to put it all in this little core unit. So it was like
an insert, like a zippered insert. It turns into an insert.
Okay. Exactly. Yep. And so it was like overflowing with stuff. And she told me I had to put it under my seat, and the plane was banking and things were falling out and it was a nightmare. So if you do get a Shimoda Designs backpack with that core unit, I highly recommend just leave it. Like I unzip the core unit and just tuck the flap behind it so that you can't even see that it's here, but it's there if I need to gate check my bag.
Okay.
As far as the weight limits, I think I'm over every single flight I go, but I've never, oh no, that's not true. I've had one airline weigh my carry-on, I think just because it probably looked like it weighed a lot, and she's right, it did. It was when I was going to New Zealand. So it was Air New Zealand. They had me weigh my carry-on or my backpack. She said it was too much, and I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have anywhere to put anything else. So I ended up kind of talking my way through it. But otherwise, I've never had anyone actually weigh my bag other than that one time. So it's kind of just luck. And I feel like since it is all like tech and camera gear, usually they're a little bit more lenient about you letting you bring it onto the plane rather than having to check it.
Be nice to people. People, if you're nice, you get further.
Yeah. Yes.
Two last products before we close this out. We had somebody asking about the little emergency radio that you had, the little transponder there, and gloves. If you're going to a really cold area, what kind of gloves do you bring?
Yes. Okay. Any specific questions about this
Just,
or?
just the type, the name of the radio or the brand.
Sure. Yep. It's a Garmin is the brand and the model is InReach Mini. And what basically it can pair to my phone so that I can load maps from this device on my phone just to see it a little bit bigger. But then I can also text people through it via satellite communication. Like if I'm somewhere by myself and maybe my partner Nate is a little concerned about me, I can text him and be like, hey, I made it to camp. You know, everything's fine. That's how we were we were communicating actually when he was doing a big trip up in Alaska last year. We were just texting through these devices. So they're really helpful for that. But then of course, you know, they're made for saving your life if you need. So there is an SOS button here that I can press if I need like search and rescue to come find me.
Awesome. All right. And
And
the
then,
gloves when you're cold for those Arctic.
so I have really bad circulation. Like I don't know if you can see that my hands are like really red and purple, like they're just cold all the time. So gloves are something I've done a ridiculous amount of deep diving on. So I'm excited to talk about this. So I use a brand called the Heat Company, and they make the liner gloves that I have. I'm actually going to show you because it's really cool. And I've never found another liner glove that has this.
Autumn, are you paying attention when you get gloves? I always get hung up on, do I need gloves that I can maneuver around buttons and maneuver around my camera? Or are you paying attention to that at all? Is it really just about, I just want my fingers to not freeze?
I do pay attention to that because there is something to be said about ease of access to your dials and all of your buttons. And it's so really hard to do when you're wearing big gloves. But I have found that, so these are the Heat Company liner gloves. I think they're like the Wind Pro liner gloves, but they're fairly thin, but they're made out of a material that like blocks wind. So it's kind of like a shell for your hand, but they have a pocket on top of your the outside of your hand for a heat packet, which I don't think any other liner glove I've seen has that. But then, so this is like when it's like relatively cold and my hands are cold, I can put these on, but they make a shell mitt that goes over top of it. So it's like a layering system for your gloves, and the shell, it's not just a shell, it's called the shell mitt, but it has a lot of insulation in it, but then it has a zipper right here where you can fold it back and it magnets back. So I can keep my hands warm when I'm not using my camera, and then I can unzip the liner mitt and fold it back, and then I have access to my fingers to use the camera. And then that liner, or the shell mitt also has a little pocket on the outside for another hand warmer. So I found that it's the best system for cold weather and still being able to like maneuver and use your camera. So highly recommend Heat Company.
Perfect. And for those of you out there looking, we did drop a link. We dropped a couple links, but one of the links was a packing list that Autumn has on her blog. So definitely go check her blog out, website, Instagram, all that. You can keep up on everything she has going on. And if you do want to go through and get the full comprehensive list, because this was like, we had like 47 comments, like excellent presentation. So a lot of people got a lot out of this. So huge thank you to you, Autumn. And this is going to be available, as I said, archived on our Facebook page, facebook.com/BH Event Space, and vimeo.com/BH Event Space, where you can go watch this, take notes, take your screen grabs, and all that. So I do want to send a huge thank you to Autumn. She's going to be back, I think, twice more in the coming months. So keep an eye out on our website for that. Also, a huge thank you to Sony for hosting this event and this entire series. And a special hello to Nate in the Wild. Somewhere behind the scenes there. But Autumn, any final closing words?
I'm just so grateful to be on here to share, because I know when I was first starting out, there wasn't a lot of information about all of this stuff and how to pack and what to prepare for. So I'm just really happy to be able to share with people and hope that it's helpful.
Awesome. Well, it definitely was a lot of great information here. So again, we dropped all the links to where you guys can go check out the brands and the specific gear that Autumn is bringing on her trip. And let us know about yours. Come track us down on Instagram at BH Event Space. Let us know where you're going. Make me jealous because I'm stuck in New York. But other than that, that's all we got for now. Then another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space is in the books. Catch y'all next time.